Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Ethical AI Studio Info Session. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us. My name is Shana Horowitz, and I'm a vice president here at New Lab. And I'm just going to talk through a little bit of an intro to New Lab before I pass things over to my colleagues and also our partners at Globant who are here joining us today. You can go to the next slide. So at New Lab, our focus is on advancing technologies that support the health of people and the planet. We act as a facilitator and really a strategic partner to a community of experts and innovators, and we help to build, test, and scale emergent technologies through structured collaboration with industry and government partners, through investment, and also through venture building. New Lab opened in the Brooklyn Navy Yard in 2016, and today we're home to over 200 companies. That's over 900 entrepreneurs and domain experts working together to apply transformative tech to urgent and meaningful challenges. To date, New Lab has helped our member companies raise over $1.5 billion, and we've had about $750 million in exits. And the companies in our community have a collective valuation around the $4 billion mark. So at our headquarters in Brooklyn, part of what we provide to teams is access to a whole suite of resources that they need to continue to make progress. So the picture you see on this slide is a picture of our space in Brooklyn. And companies have access to on-site prototyping resources, product realization, and different pilot opportunities and test beds. As part of the Ethical AI Studio that we're going to be talking about today, teams are going to have full access to these resources throughout the duration of the program. And importantly, the Ethical AI Studio marks a really great milestone for New Lab's expansion into the Latin American region. And that's powered by a public-private partnership that we have with Uruguay, and Globant is a really important piece of that. So our team at New Lab runs our Innovation Studio portfolio, where we partner with leading corporations, government agencies, and foundations to provide that structured collaboration I referenced earlier. So it's really, how do we structure engagement between experts, innovators, and large corporations and industry leaders. So these studios provide startups with market signal about the novel application areas for their tech and an avenue to quickly test and iterate their technology in real-world conditions and with real use cases. At the same time, these studios really help our government and our industry partners to establish a really effective ecosystem of external collaborators. Our team's strategy really centers on uncovering the right challenges to pursue and understanding the criteria for solutions to scale. So as you hear about the use cases today, those really came out of the process that you see here. So we use the knowledge that we gather during our kickoff and our research phases to make sure that we're convening the right talent and then enabling them to pursue specific projects that are going to advance their progress and also help to address those challenges that are critical to moving the industry at large forward. Our work with startups is really focused on finding the right pathways for them to partner with stakeholders to scale their impact. So today, again, we're going to be talking more specifically about the use cases we're pursuing in the Ethical AI Studio, but this is the general blueprint of how we approach our studio work. To give you a feel for how this approach comes to life across a variety of different themes and partners, here you can see just a selection of the studios that are in our portfolio at New Lab. So we take a really systems level approach to tackling the energy transition, to the future of mobility, and to the future development of sustainable materials. So just to call out a couple of them here, we're working on energy storage innovation with the City of New York. We're working on offshore wind innovation with Ørsted, on electrifying commercial fleets with Ford, and on curbside electric vehicle charging infrastructure with the New York City Department of Transportation. So just to give you a feel of all the activities happening at New Lab. So I'm going to pass things over now to my colleague, Mariella, who's going to tell you more about the opportunity that's in front of us, specifically with the Ethical AI Studio. One, just housekeeping note before I do so, please feel free to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen to add your questions. We've got some dedicated time at the end of the session, and we'll be sure to get to those. So please feel free to add them throughout. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shana. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mariela Machado, Director of Programs here at NewLab for our LATAM Innovation Studios, which includes, of course, the Ethical AI Studio that we're speaking to you about in partnership with Globant and Be Kind Tech Fund. This studio is our first studio out of our Uruguayan platform, so we're very excited, to get to this milestone at this open call for startups that we're in right now. The Ethical AI Studio integrates advanced digital technologies with socially responsible frameworks to ensure the ethical design, implementation, and scaling of AI. We're aiming to directly address the unintended harms caused by digital innovations. The studio is actively seeking early-stage technology companies to work alongside Globant to develop and test new solutions that will promote well-being and restore the public trust in emerging technologies in two key industries. The first one being the gaming and metaverse industry, and the second one, life sciences and healthcare. Next slide, please. So we're focusing on these two areas that, as I mentioned, are aligned to key industries. So I'm going to start with expanding a little more on the first one. So as you see here on the left, the safer online gaming and metaverse spaces is we're really aiming to test and deploy solutions that can utilize the power of AI to foster positive and safer online gaming and metaverse spaces. We are looking, but not limited to the following technological areas: automated detection of non-text-based forms of abuse, better understanding of context and intent in online interactions, tracking those interactions across different platforms in gaming and metaverse, promoting and rewarding pro-social behaviors, and preventing the spread of misinformation in the metaverse especially. And the second one on the right is more inclusive and transparent algorithms, and we're really aiming to create and validate these solutions that will ensure algorithms deployed and the data practices are ethical and could be used across healthcare and life sciences. So areas that we're looking at, training AI models with more representative, diverse data sets, detecting potential biases in the design and deployment of algorithms in this industry, enabling usage of medical data, respecting specifically with data privacy, ensuring reliable information for R&D and diagnostic purposes, and detecting and scientific and public disinformation. So there's more information about this on the website. If you have any questions in regards to these focus areas, also, you feel free to put it on the Q&A. But without further to say, we have today here two very important people from Globant. We have Joaquin Moriche, VP Entrepreneur Relations, and Agustin Lamas, Global Managing Director of Life Sciences and Healthcare. So we have really two important people here from Globant that will tell you a little bit more about their perspective and what they're looking for in these two industries. So over to you, Joaquin.
Thank you, Mariela, and thanks everybody for joining. First of all, let me tell you a little story about Globant. So 19 years ago, 4 friends from Argentina were having a beer in Argentina. Some of them were having some struggles with their jobs, and they say, hey, why don't we create a startup that builds technology from Argentina to the world? In order to make the long story short, is 19 years later, Globant, it's a almost $10 billion company, public company at NICE. We're almost 26. I think the updated number is around 27,000 Glovers around the world, with presence in more than 19 countries and more than 50 cities. Basically, what we do, we push our clients to reinvent themselves by digital transformation. We focused on the 500 Fortune list of enterprises, big enterprises, to help them make the best digital transformation they can. And again, reinvent themselves for the future. Let's go to the next one. That's just a context about Globant. So what is the Be Kind Tech Fund? Basically, these 4 founders are still really active, really involved in the company. And a year ago, 2 of them were watching this TED Talk that was about how harmful the abuse of using the phone can be, and how addictive that can be for different kind of persons. So they say, hey, we create technology. We build technology for our clients. We build the digital transformation for our clients. We don't want to build technology for bad. We want to build technology for good. So they decided to create this fund, to design and create this corporate venture fund inside Globant called the Be Kind Tech Fund, with a sole purpose to mitigate the collateral effects of technology. We know that technology is good. We know that technology empowers us, spurs us innovation, make us more productive, but the same technology has a B side, and that B side we want to mitigate. When we start designing this fund, we realized that it was a big broader of topics about the collateral effects of technology. So basically, we decided to focus on 5 different facets, and these are the ones. AI bias is the one that we are going to focus today on AI bias, and it's basically what the startups that we want to find to make pilots based on our life science studio, and that's part of what Agustin is going to talk later. But let me talk a little bit about the other ones. So information bubbles and polarization. Right now, we are in the most polarized world ever. It's not only happening in Uruguay, in Argentina, in Brazil, in Latin America, in US, it's happening everywhere. Our social media is only sending us what we want to hear, and it's not sending the other side of the bell. Screen time abuse, it's a big cause. I think nobody can escape from this. How do we stop abusing from our screens? Online harassment and abuse, cyberbullying, it's a big issue that technology is causing. When we were kids, if we receive bullying, if we were bullied, we have safe havens. We can go back to our homes, we can go to a friend's house, we can go to a club and find safe spaces. With cyberbullying, it follows the person that is being bullied to everywhere, and it's really annoying, and it's causing a lot of harm to a lot of people. And last but not least, data privacy and data security. We really want to mitigate this problem. We believe that data privacy should be a universal right. So I will handle it to Agus so he can tell you a little bit about the Life Science Studio. Go ahead, Agus.
Okay, thank you, Joaquin. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Can you? Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Agustin Lamas. I'm the Managing Director for the Life Science Studio. I have 2 slides with a couple of information there, but let me kick off sharing with you high level the 4 areas that we are focused in the Life Science Studio. Okay, so to give you a little bit of context and the rest of the information can flow easier. So basically, we're trying to apply technology, all the expertise from Globant, towards 4 main areas. One is drug discovery, all the area around trying to improve the acceleration of drug discovery, how we accelerate some candidates in terms of time, and also the selection of those drug candidates, how we can improve the processes and cost, and so on. So the first bucket is all around the process of drug discovery, which is mainly called R&D, okay? The second one, which I'm gonna share a couple of examples afterwards in terms of how ethical AI can help, is clinical trials, okay? So the patient enrollment, the recruitment, how diverse it is, how we can also run clinical trials in a decentralized and digitalized ways, improving the democratization of how patients are taken care of when they are enrolled and part of a clinical trial and so on. So I'm just selecting the key things that may call your attention regarding the ethical AI topic. The third one is how the different payers and health systems are managing diseases in terms of financial impact of those diseases and clinical impact. So ethnicity, decentralization, demographic, and patient population database, real world evidence is absolutely critical to enable data sets to take better decisions at government level. I say government level, but it's payer level, so both private and government. And last but not least is the go-to-market strategy for the pharmaceutical companies. And it's very relevant in this topic because the education, most of the education worldwide is in hands of the private companies. And we apply algorithm and AI to really target certain messages, target educations towards the healthcare professionals and also patients. And it's very important that we have the right tools in place to enable that democratization of information. So said that, so those are the four buckets where we focus on the studio through technology. So now going to the slide that you have in front of you. So as you can see, yeah, that one, thank you. So as you can see that there are many places and use cases where we directly or even our clients should consider the approach and the consideration of ethical AI. AI is the main enabler for us in the strategy, okay? So the main enabler around the four verticals and the four buckets that I just explained to you. So the reinvention is gonna be through artificial intelligence and machine learning mainly. So what a responsibility to really take this very seriously, not only us as technology providers, but also how we can influence the clients to really take this seriously and also help them with concrete solutions from the very beginning to have the ethical AI in the top of mind. So the next slide, and I will finish with this one, is to give you some specific examples. It's too many information. I prefer to be brief here and then open to questions if they are, or make myself fully available offline. So I focus on the left-hand side. So I build up with my team so three main areas of opportunity. So how we can ensure the data sets are diverse. This is very obvious, but imagine a clinical trial. Imagine a clinical trial, any drug available in the market is a multicentric double-blind, but 70%, if not more, of the enrollments worldwide are in key centers because of many reasons, because of regulatory agencies' requirements, because it's easier to enroll the patients and so on. So the data sets, how diverse they are, not only from the enrollment, but also from the architecture of that data sets is absolutely important. How those algorithms are really enable or avoiding that vulnerable population are out or in scope. So the second question is linked to the first one, and I know many startups in the list that can really help us on that, and also suggesting our clients to ensure that that question is fully answered from the very beginning. And the democratization of access to care in the third pillar that I mentioned to you is absolutely critical, but again, it runs to the data architecture that we set from the very beginning, so those algorithms are really clean and transparent before running those equations. I'm not going to go through the full information because I think you can read this offline and after the meeting, but we are focused, talking to you, startups and people which are really on the lead of this. We have two main objectives, which are described, two of the four that are described on the right-hand side, which is the bias detection. So we need to help our clients focus on this. Not only for ourselves, but also we need to help our clients. We need guidance to our clients. So the bias detection is absolutely the most important one. And the second one, I choose the fourth bucket, which is how we can really put the synthetic strategy, the synthetic data strategy, also on the table when we discuss with them. So there are tons of information when we go through real world data as an example. The derivative synthetic data strategy is something that we need support, we need collaboration, and we need partnership because we see that unmet need in our clients. So I will finish there. There's a lot of information. So what I want you to take away is we're focused on drug discovery, high unmet need for data, for AI, ethical AI. We're focused on decentralization of clinical trial I have to say it's one of the biggest unmet needs in the healthcare system. And the third bucket, which is the third most important one, is how the payers, the people who take financial and clinical decisions, has transparent and has ethical AI as key success factor for the decision-making process. So I will stop there. I know that I ran a little bit because we don't have too much time. I will pause here, and I think we have at the end of the session a Q&A, so happy to stay and connect with you.
Thank you so much, Agustin. That was so insightful. And Joaquin, always to hear from you the history and the current and future focus of Globant. So thank you again. And I'm sure the participants also found it very useful. And again, if you have any questions for Agustin or Joaquin, please put it in the Q&A function for the questions at the end of the session. Quickly about the studio timeline, as you see here on the screen, we are currently in the open call that will close next week. So closing shortly on September 21st. Then in October, we'll be reviewing the application, and this review will be a joint effort between New Lab, our advisors, Globant, and the Be Kind Tech Fund. The idea then is that we will select the top candidates, and we'll have additional questions, one-on-one calls to dig deeper into your technology and your plans for the pilot. And then finally, the finalist review, which, the idea is that we start sometime in November with the final 5 or 7 startups that will join the studio. With the goal of starting the pilot sometime in November until March. You see there the demo day that is in March, and then ongoing support, where we hand off, hopefully, the partnership that will get established between yourselves and Globant and the Be Kind Tech Fund. Next slide, please. So here, just outlining some of the benefits of being part of the studio if you get selected. The first one and very important one is the investment and exposure. We provide non-dilutive funding for pilots, and no equity is taken during this time and even after. You will get access to New Lab's White Network, which includes over 600 angel investors that are interested in investing in cutting-edge technologies like yours. Close collaboration with Globant, also on the Be Kind Tech Fund throughout the entire process of the pilot. Secondly, you see there the build and pilot. We provide a strategic support throughout the pilot phase. We will go hand in hand with you to create a structured pilot that will reach KPIs that we agreed on for both your company and for Globant. We'll also have subject matter experts and a network of relevant stakeholders that will help iterate the solution and hopefully achieve those KPIs. And finally, you will get access to our community and space through our membership for that period of time. You will become members of New Lab throughout the pilot phase, and you will get access to the 250 plus members that we have that are also scaling transformative technologies, our network of industry leaders, and of course, access to our 5 million on-site prototyping resources here at the Brooklyn Navy Yard. I just want to clarify that we usually get these questions that even though you get access to our space and you get membership, this is all remote. The pilot phase is meant to be remote, even though there might be some touch points where we'll bring you to New York if you're not already here, or to Argentina or Uruguay. So I will leave it there. If you have any questions, I will now pass it to my colleague, Chena, for final remarks.
Hey, everyone again. Yes, I think we're going to take some questions from the audience. So feel free to add again in the Q&A function on the bottom of your screen, and we're happy to take those now. So I'll start with the first question that's here, which is about who's going to be reviewing my application to the studio. So great question. It'll be a combination of New Lab team members and Globant team members who will be coming together to review those applications. So looking for really the most compelling kind of relevant vision for a pilot project that could be executed around one of the use cases and areas of focus that you heard about today. So we'll be reviewing those applications just as soon as the applications close on September 21st. And then we'll be looking to name that cohort shortly after so that we can get started on those different projects. Next question, what if I just have an idea and I haven't launched a startup yet? We'd love to hear from you just to see what you're thinking about and see if New Lab can be helpful in general, but I would say this studio is probably not the right fit at this particular moment. We're really looking to partner with startups that could execute a significant pilot project in the next quarter or so. So the next 6 months, how can we, in a kind of real world context, actually test out some of these technologies and use that as means to identify different paths to be able to scale those solutions. So if you're just at the idea stage, that's great. Perhaps New Lab and some other folks within our broader community could be of support, but probably the application to the studio isn't the right move at this moment. And then another question on how many applicants, will be selected to participate. So Mariela mentioned this earlier, but we anticipate having at least 5 companies join us for this studio. There is the potential that we may accept a couple of more, but we're looking to advance at least 5 distinct projects through this studio. And then a question about the funding piece. So again, just to reiterate, our team will be working really closely with the selected startups as really strategic partners to help design and then manage this specific pilot project and make sure that you've got the resources that you need in order to do so. The grant funding that is offered is really just a means to offset some of the hard costs that you might incur as part of this pilot project. So we anticipate we have a pool of about $100,000 US to distribute across the selected companies. Okay. Sorry, just catching up here. Okay, we have a question about somebody developing a new social science AI platform tool that is in part helping to address complex issues related to misinformation, not directly related to safer gaming or the metaverse or life sciences. Does this fall outside of your requirements? I would say, please be in touch. It sounds interesting. Misinformation is definitely an area that we looked at and continue to be interested in. Misinformation is, of course, a very broad topic, and there are ways and kind of slices that it could intersect with life sciences or safer gaming, which is kind of immediately relevant. But more broadly, that's definitely an area that we're interested in exploring. So feel free, it'd be great to see your application, but if you'd like to have a direct discussion to share a bit more about your company and see if there could be an avenue for collaboration, please feel free to reach out directly. Okay. Okay, so we have another question about kind of stage and fit. So somebody developing a health tech company that's got to focus on AI and they're still collecting their data sets. Is this a fit? I would say it depends probably on the specifics of your company. So again, feel free to reach out and be in touch. We imagine, again, in the course of designing each of the pilot projects with the cohort, that we'll be bringing different resources to the table. So for example, if you're developing an algorithm and part of what you need is a data set to accelerate your progress, we could look kind of across the partners that we have in this studio and see if there's a way that we could marry you up with someone to provide that data set, or perhaps it's even an interesting opportunity to partner with a company that's in the synthetic data space who could generate a synthetic data set that could continue to support your progress. So I'd say need a little bit more information to be able to understand that, but feel free to start an application, feel free to be in touch and we can discuss more. Okay, let's see. Can solutions propose AI for new and future data sets? yes. I think again, the spirit of this studio is to be able to advance projects in the here and now with an eye towards how they can scale and grow as time goes on. So if this is purely theoretical at this moment, we'd probably look to have a deeper conversation about what we could test in the near term in order to make progress on that bigger picture concept. But in general, yes, there is room to propose kind of how different algorithms could be developed for future data sets. Okay. Another question about the funding. So again, there's $100,000 US that will be distributed to the cohort. Great. And then we've got a question, Joaquin, maybe we'll direct this one towards you. A question about the Be Kind Tech Fund. And you mentioned your different focus areas, but could you talk about some specific examples of how you've seen that come to life? If you're able to talk about any companies that you've made investments into to date, that would be great.
Thank you, Sheena. Yeah, actually, I can tell you that we have already announced the first investment, which is a company called Ping. Basically, Ping is a very simple technology in order to solve a very important problem on the riders. You know, on the riders application, there's a lot of accidents and injuries and fatalities because of accidents. So basically, what Ping does, they transform the messages that the riders receive in the middle of a ride into voice. And that's, I think, the first time that these guys came to us and say, hey, but this is really simple, but in a technological way, it's not that simple. And for example, riders receive messages like, please don't ring the bell because you will wake up my kid. And if they don't get that message in the proper way, they can get out of the tip. And in this way, they can get the message without using the screen or reading the message and distracting from the road. That's the first startup we have, first investment that is trying to mitigate the screen time abuse or text and driving as another collateral effects of technology. We have another company in the due diligence process. I cannot tell you more about that, but it's trying to address the misinformation and polarization focused. Is there a focus that is more relevant? We can invest in either of the 5 different focus that I told you earlier.
Great. And then Agustina, a question for you around kind of the stage of company that you might be interested in partnering with. So on one end of the spectrum, we might have kind of market-ready solutions that Globant could invest in or sort of partner up with, but how early are you willing to work? Do you see a world in which you might partner up with a startup and sort of go to market together?
Open to, thanks for the question. It's a good one. Open to every angle. I think the way we are facing the market is really ambitious and in different ways, and this requires different capabilities. So at this point in time, I would be open to any type of life cycle, let's call it that way, situations. So happy to connect one-on-one offline and discuss this in parallel.
Great, thank you. All right. Let's see, just scanning here, last call for new questions. There's one open here around the ability to include hardware as part of the pilot. So if it would be appropriate to have, say, hardware sensors for collecting data. In general, I would say yes. I mean, New Lab certainly works across hardware and software. For this particular studio, I think we've been most focused on software-based pilots, just given the specific use cases. But if there's an angle that you're interested in proposing whereby you're actually collecting your own data and then developing AI based on that, I think we're definitely open to hearing more and seeing that proposal. All right, I believe that covers all of the open questions. Marielle, I'll pass it back to you for the last word.
Yeah, thank you, Sheena. Thank you everyone for asking so many good questions. So just as a final thought and just to expand on what Sheena has been saying in a couple answering these questions, please feel free to reach out to me. at ethicalai@newlab.com. If you're wanting, there's a week still, where we can have a one-on-one call and just brainstorm, or like, so that we understand a little more your solution, brainstorm maybe a possible pilot, or just assess if it's a good fit for both the studio and for you. So please shoot me an email if you're interested in exploring this further. Happy to jump on a call and continue to understand how could we help you, or if this is a good fit. So leaving the email right there. And thank you so much for joining. Joaquin, Agustin, thank you so much for your insight and for connecting with us today. And we'll see you all soon. Have a great day.